Page 12. Yes, I guess you're right, agreed Beezus. I'll have to be plain old Beatrice with her plain old brown hair. I think Beatrice is fancy, said Ramona, who also had plain old brown hair, but did not take it so hard. Agreeing with Beezus, Beatrice gave Ramona a cozy feeling, as if something unusually pleasant had taken place. Beezus honored Ramona with a watery smile, forgiving her, at least for the moment, for preaching a sermon. Ramona felt secure and happy. Agreeing was so pleasant. She wished she and her sister could agree more often. Unfortunately, there were so many things to disagree about. Whose turn it was to feed Picky Picky, the old yellow cat? Who should change the paper under Picky Picky's dish? Whose washcloth had been left sopping in the bathtub because someone had not wrung it out? And whose dirty underwear had been left in whose half of the room? Ramona always said Beatrice, was bossy because she was older. Beatrice said Ramona always got her own way because she was the baby and because she always made a fuss. For the moment, all this was forgotten. Miss Quimby smiled to see her girls at peace with one another. Don't worry, Beatrice. If the boys tease you, just hold your head high and ignore them. When they see they can't tease you, they will stop. The two sisters exchanged a look of complete understanding. They both knew this was the sort of advice easy for adults to give, but difficult for children to follow. If the boys remembered, Beezus might have to listen to Jesus Beezus for months before they gave up. By the way, Ramona, said Mrs. Quimby, as Beatrice went off to the bathroom to splash cold water on her face, what did you say to the boys in the park? Ramona, who had flopped back on the couch, sat up straight. I told them they were not supposed to take the name of the Lord in vain, she said in her most proper Sunday school voice. That's what my Sunday school teacher said. Oh, I see, said Mrs. Quimby. And what did they say to that? Ramona chagrined because she knew her mother was amused, and Ramona did not like anyone to be amused when she was serious. Wasn't I right? That's what I learned in Sunday school. She was filled with uncertainty by her mother's amusement as well as by her sister's anger over the incident. Of course you were right, dear, although I don't suppose a bunch of boys would pay much attention. Mrs. Quimby's lips were not smiling, but amusement lingered in her eyes. How did the boys answer? Ramona's confidence wilted completely. She was seeing that little girl in the park who was not the heroine she thought she was after all. They laughed, Ramona admitted in a small voice, feeling sorry for herself. Poor little Ramona, laughed at and picked on. Nobody understood how she felt. Nobody understood what it was like to be 6 years old, and the littlest one in the family, unless you counted old Picky Picky, and even he was 10 years old. Mrs. Quimby gave Ramona a big hug. Well, it's all over now, she said. Run along and play, but please, don't play Brick Factory this afternoon. Don't worry, Mother. I don't have any bricks left. Ramona felt that her mother should be able to see that running along and playing was impossible on a hot summer afternoon when everyone Ramona's age had gone to the beach or to the mountains, or to visit a grandmother. The 2 weeks the Quimbys had spent in a borrowed mountain cabin in July now seemed a long time away. Who was she supposed to play with? Summer was boring, long and boring. No bricks left for the game of brick factory which she and her friend Howie had invented. Nobody to play with, and Beezus with her nose in a book all day. Not having any place to run along to, Ramona sat looking at her mother, thinking that her fresh haircut and touch of eyeshadow made her look unusually nice this afternoon. She wondered if her mother would tell her father about the incident in the park, and if they would have a good laugh over it when they thought Ramona could not hear. She hoped not. She did not want her father to laugh at her. Seeing her mother looking so nice made Ramona recall the reason for the trip to the park. "What was your errand that you didn't want to drag us along on?" she asked. Mrs. Quimby smiled, a different smile, exasperating and mysterious. "Shh," she said, her finger on her lips. "It's a secret, and wild horses couldn't drag it out of me." Ramona found secrets hard to bear. "Tell me, Mama. Mama, please tell me." She threw her arms around her mother, who had a good smell of clean clothes and perfumed soap. "Please, please, please." Learning a big, juicy secret would help make up for Ramona's unhappy afternoon. Mrs. Quimby shook her head. "Pretty please with a lump of sugar on it." Ramona felt she could not bear not knowing this very minute. "If I told you it wouldn't be a secret any more," said Mrs. Quimby. That, Ramona felt, was just about the most exasperating sentence ever spoken by a grown-up.